So we were discussing about the entire uh, chapter, the summary of it, the plant kingdom. So plant kingdom, the general characters of it. The first thing that we discussed in this chapter was the different types of systems of biological classification. So the different systems of classification are artificial system, natural system, and phylogenetic system of biological classification. So three types of biological classification are noticed in plant kingdom. They are the artificial system of classification, natural system of biological classification, phylogenetic system of classification. So the artificial classification system was the earliest system of classification. So they were based on a few vegetative characters or few morphological characters such as habit, color, number, and the shape of leaves. So Linnaeus, Carolus Linnaeus artificial system of classification was based on androecium structure. If you can see here, based on the number of stamens, type of stamen like monoadelphous, diadelphous, polyadelphous, syngenesious, synandrous, gynandrous, didynamous, tetradynamous. So only on the basis of this androecium structure, Linnaeus gave his biological classification for plants. So this Linnaeus system of classification is an example for artificial classification where it is based on only the androecium structure. So only the androecium structure it is based on. Okay. Then we discuss the drawbacks or the disadvantages of this artificial classification system. So in the artificial classification system, they separated closely related species since they were based on a few characters like the type of androecium. So on that basis, they were classified. So they separated the closely related species since the artificial system considered only a few characters. So the artificial system also had a disadvantage because they gave equal weightage to the vegetative as well as sexual characteristics. So this is not acceptable since the vegetative characteristics changes with the environment. They are easily affected by the environment. As a result of it, they are not credible uh, source of information. So the vegetative characteristics is not a credible source of information because they might change as per the environment they are exposed to. So the second type of biological classification is natural classification system. So these are based on natural affinities among organisms. It considers external features as well as internal features. So the natural classification system considers both external and internal features. The internal features included the ultrastructure, anatomy, embryology, and phytochemistry. So it considered both external and internal features, the natural system of classification. So the internal feature study included the ultrastructure, anatomy, embryology, and phytochemistry. So the classification of for flowering plants was given by Bentham and Hooker. So I've even told you that Bentham and Hooker have also written Flora of Madras Presidency, wherein the South Indian states, whatever plants that occurred in South India at the beginning of the 18th century. You find 18th to 19th century, at the beginning of the 19th century. So that plants were all listed in his book Flora of Madras Presidency. So I have already discussed in detail about this. So the classification of George Bentham and Joseph Dalton Hooker, so is a natural classification system. The most accepted system of classification is the phylogenetic system of classification. Reason being, they are based on evolutionary relationship among the organisms. So the phylogenetic system is based on evolutionary relationship among the organisms. So this assumes that the organisms in the same taxa have a common ancestor. So here you can see in the slide, so the different types of apes, the chimpanzee, the gorilla, okay, so the orangutan, man. So they're all branched. They all probably might have had a common ancestor. So phylogenetic classification system is the most accepted type of classification system since they are based on evolutionary relationship among the organism. And this phylogenetic system also considers that organisms in the same taxa might have evolved from a common ancestor. So organism in the same taxa might have evolved from a common ancestor. So one of the example for phylogenetic classification system is the Engler and Prandtl system of classification. So the Engler and Prandtl system of classification is an example for phylogenetic classification system. So other types of classification, so which is going to resolve the problems in classification. So to resolve certain taxonomic disputes, we use other types of classification system also. Like there is numerical taxonomy. It is based on all the observable characteristics of the plant. It is carried out using computers. So numbers and codes are assigned to all the characters and the data are processed. So thus hundreds of characters can be equally considered. So numerical taxonomy, it is based on all the external observable characteristics. It is carried out using the computers. So the numbers and codes are assigned to all the characters that are noticed and the data are processed. So thus hundreds of characters can be equally provided weightage, can be equally considered. So this type of classification is seen in numerical taxonomy is based on observable characteristics. So you can see that there are hundreds of characters and tags are different taxes as well. It is plus. If it is absent, it is minus. Later, they were using this binary system 0 if the characters were absent, 1 if it was present, then punch card method also they went for the numerical taxonomy. So that itself is a different study. But anyway, you have to remember the basics of numerical taxonomy. It is based on all the observable characteristics. It is carried out using the computers. So the numbers and codes are assigned to all the characters and the data are processed. So here hundreds of characters can be equally considered. Then cytotaxonomy. Cytotaxonomy, it is based on cytological information like what is the chromosome number, the structure of the chromosome, behavior of the chromosomes. If plants are classified on the basis of these cytological information like chromosome number, structure, behavior, etc., we call this type of classification as cytotaxonomy. Chemotaxonomy, it is based on the chemical constituents of the plant. So it uses the chemical constituents of the plant, like some of the plants have theanine, caffeine, or they might be having caffeine. So, or the alkaloids, flavonoids. So based on the chemical constituents of the plant, the plants are classified in chemotaxonomy. So in this taxonomy, it uses the chemical constituents of the plant. Chemotaxonomy uses the chemical constituents of the plant. So then we had discussed about algae. So if you are looking into algae, so under this plant kingdom, three classes are placed under the plant kingdom. So those classes are the chlorophyceae, Phaeophyceae, and Rhodophyceae. Chlorophyceae is the green algae, Rhodophyceae is the red algae, and Phaeophyceae is the brown algae. And you can notice here in the backdrop of this slide, so the volvox the mother colony it is, they have daughter colonies, many daughter colonies in between them, the volvox. So they exist as a colony. So volvox is a example of colonial form of green algae. So algae, if you look into the general characteristics of algae, they are simple, thalloid, autotrophic. So they are autotrophic in nature, chlorophyll bearing, and aquatic, freshwater and marine organisms they are. They can either be freshwater or marine organisms. So they are simple to the plant body is simple. We call it as thalloid. They are autotrophic, that is, they undergo photosynthesis. They are chlorophyll bearing and aquatic. So they are seen in water, either freshwater or marine water organisms. So these algae are also seen in moist stones, soils, and wood. Some of the algae they occur in association with fungi, as in case of lichen, and animals. Example on sloth bear, you can see the green fur. So this is due to the presence of green algae on their fur. So even on animals, the algae is found in association with. Example is the green algae on sloth bear's fur. Algae, the form and size of algae is highly variable. So the microscopic unicellular form to you find the macroscopic forms. So the microscopic unicellular forms are, example is Chlamydomonas. The colonial forms you notice in case of volvox. The filamentous forms, example is Eulothrix and Spirogyra. So Spirogyra, they have a spirally arranged chloroplast. So the reproduction in algae. So you notice that they have three types of reproduction: vegetative reproduction, asexual reproduction, and sexual reproduction. So the vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation. So the fragments, like filaments, they might get fragmented. Each fragment develops into a new thallus. So this type of increase in number of algae because of fragmentation is called as is one of the vegetative type of reproduction. So asexual reproduction is by the production of spores. Example, zoospores, most commonly they are formed in asexual reproduction. They are flagellated, that is motile. These zoospores, on reaching suitable substratum, they germinate to give rise to new plant, new algae. Okay, so asexual reproduction is by the formation of zoospores, which are motile. Because they are flagellated, they germinate to give rise to new plants. Sexual reproduction is through fusion of two gametes. So the fusion of two gametes leads to the sexual reproduction in algae. Then we discuss the types of sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is of many types. Uh, there are three types majorly: isogamous, anisogamous, and oogamous type of sexual reproduction. If the fusion of gametes uh, are similar in size, if the gametes involved in the fusion are similar in size, they may be flagellated, example Eulothrix, or they might be non-flagellated, as in case of Spirogyra. And if the gametes are similar in size, similar is isogamy. So this type of sexual reproduction, we call it as isogamous type. In anisogamous type, fusion of two gametes which are dissimilar in size. So the female is larger in this example and male is smaller. So this sort of dissimilar gametes, if they are fusing, so this type of sexual reproduction, we call it as anisogamous type. So example is Euderina. So some species of Euderina, they have this anisogamous type of sexual reproduction. Then in oogamous type of sexual reproduction, it is fusion of one large non-motile static egg cell and a smaller motile male gamete. So this sort of fusion of one large non-motile static female egg cell with that of a smaller motile male gamete. So we call this type of sexual reproduction as oogamous type of sexual reproduction. Example for this is volvox and fucus. All this we have discussed. At any point you want me to explain, you can just switch on your mics and you can inquire me about your doubts.
Excuse
So
me, sir.
yeah,
Sir, in anisogamous, are both of them motile?
Yeah, they can be motile. Both of them are motile in this case. Oogamous is a type of anisogamous. They are dissimilar. Okay. But in anisogamous type, both the gametes are flagellated. They are motile. Okay. In
Okay.
oogamous type, the egg cell is non-flagellated. So that is what you have to remember about. They are large and non-flagellated. Only the smaller male gamete is flagellated. They are motile. Okay. So next that we will be discussing is the benefits of algae. So what are the benefits of algae? So through photosynthesis, they fix the total half of the total carbon dioxide on earth is fixed by the algae. So that is about through photosynthesis they are fixing it. So carbon cycle, they have an important role. So through photosynthesis, half of the total carbon dioxide on earth is fixed through photosynthesis by algae, and they increase the level of dissolved oxygen even for the oxygen cycle. So these algae plays an important role. So they increase the level of dissolved oxygen. So these algae are in the ecosystem, they are the primary producers. Marine ecosystem, they are the primary producers and the basis of food cycle of all aquatic animals. So they are one of the base of the food cycle of all the aquatic animals. So about 70 species of marine algae are used as food. You can see the Porphyra, Laminaria, Sargassum. They're all used as food in the coastal areas. Okay. Then agar is extracted from Gelidium and Gracilaria. This agar is utilized for the preparation of culture media. So these agar products are also used to grow microbes by preparing the culture medium. Then they are also used for preparation of ice creams. The crystallization of ice creams are avoided, and they are also used for the making of jellies. So agar is also used in the making of jellies. So the Gelidium and Gracilaria, we extract from them agar, which is used to grow the microbes on the in the microbiology labs. Okay. Some marine brown and red algae, they produce hydrocolloids. So they are all water holding substances. Example is algin in brown algae and carrageen in red algae. Some of the marine brown and red algae, they produce hydrocolloids, which has the water holding capacity. So in brown algae, they have this algin, and red algae, they have this carrageen. So these are used commercially. So these hydrocolloids are used commercially. So the protein rich unicellular algae like chlorella and spirulina, so they are used as food supplements by space travelers. So single cell protein, we call it as SCP. So the protein rich unicellular algae like chlorella and the spirulina, they are used as food supplements, additional food by the space travelers. So the algae is classified into three types: chlorophyceae or green algae, phaeophyceae or brown algae, rhodophyceae or red algae. So the algae are classified into three classes: chlorophyceae, phaeophyceae, and rhodophyceae. Chlorophyceae is also called as green algae, and phaeophyceae is also called as brown algae. Rhodophyceae is called as red algae. I've already told you that in prokaryotes, kingdom Monera, we have included the prokaryotic algae, that is blue-green algae or cyanobacteria. Then diatoms and golden desmids, the golden brown algae, chrysophytes, they are placed in kingdom Protista. Okay, so these sort of the things are there. So only the three types of algae that are placed in plant kingdom is chlorophyceae, phaeophyceae, and rhodophyceae, because their cell wall are made up of cellulose. They are eukaryotic organisms, so they have chloroplast similar to that of higher plants. Based on this, so these three algae have been placed under the plant kingdom. See, chlorophyceae green algae, they are unicellular, colonial, or filamentous. See, Chlamydomonas is unicellular, Colonial is volvox, and filamentous form you notice in case of Eulothrix or Spirogyra. So the chloroplasts, the pigments that they have is chlorophyll A and B, because of which they are green in color. So the chloroplasts may be different shapes of chloroplasts are there. They are discoid in shape, reticulate, cup shaped, or ribbon shaped in different species. They have different types of chloroplasts. See, one or more pyrenoids are located within the chloroplast. What are the pyrenoids containing? They, besides the protein, pyrenoids also contain starch. So some of the algae, green algae, they store food as oil droplets, and they have a rigid cell wall. The chlorophyce has a rigid cell wall made up of an inner cellulose layer and an outer pectose layer, because of which they have a rigid cell wall. So chlorophyce has a rigid cell wall because they are made up of an inner cellulose layer and an outer pectose layer. So example of this green algae are Chlamydomonas. So you can notice them, Volvox, where daughter colony and parent colony, then Eulothrix, Spirogyra, and Cara. So they are all the examples of the green algae. So you can also notice this Eulothrix, Spirogyra, they have a spirally arranged chloroplast here, and Cara, which is found in the lakes. Okay, so they have the main branch and side branches. So they have nucellus and globule as the reproductive structures. So Cara is also one of the green algae which are found in the distributed in the lakes. Okay, so they have a main axis and the branches of it. The branches will be carrying the nucellus and globule, which are the reproductive organs of this green algae. So in chlorophyce, the reproduction is by vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation, by the formation of or by the formation of different types of spores. You notice this type of vegetative reproduction. Asexual reproduction is by the formation of biflagellated zoospores produced in zoosporangia. So the sexual reproduction, it can be either isogamous, anisogamous, or oogamous type of sexual reproduction. So the sexual reproduction that you notice in case of green algae can be either isogamous, anisogamous, or oogamous type of sexual reproduction. Then we have the Phaeophyce, which is also called as brown algae. Some of the examples that you have to remember for this brown algae is the filamentous form, the Ectocarpus, the Kelps macrocystis, which is nearly 100 meter in length. So the largest algae, the Kelps, so macrocystis. Then you can remember the Dictyota. Dictyota have dichotomous branching. Okay, so you can also remember the sargassum. So you have this plants here, Sporachinus, Dictyota, and sargassum. Now, Phaeophyce, see, whenever the classification of these algae is based on the type of pigments and as well as based on the type of reserve food material. That is a major thing on the basis of which we have classified the algae. So Phaeophyce, they are majority of them are marine forms. They show great variation in size and form. They can be simple branched filamentous form like Ectocarpus, or profusely branched as in case of kelps, which grows 100-meter in height. They have pigments like chlorophyll A and C. See, the green algae had chlorophyll A and B, but here they have chlorophyll A and C, carotenoids, and xanthophylls is present. They vary in color. So this brown algae vary in color from olive green to brown, depending upon the amount of xanthophyll pigment, that is fucoxanthin. So based on the amount of fucoxanthin that is present, they vary in color from olive green to brown in color. So food is stored in brown algae as carbohydrates, that is laminarian or mannitol. So the vegetative cells, they have a cellulosic wall which is covered by a gelatinous coating of algin. So they have a cellulosic wall covered by a gelatinous coating of algin. So the protoplasm of this brown algae, that is cytoplasm and nucleus, we call it as protoplasm, isn't it? They contain plastids, central vacuole, and nucleus. The plant body is attached to the substratum by holdfast, and it has a stalk, and we call that stalk as stipe. So you can notice the examples of laminaria, fucus, and dictyota. So they have a stalk, so through which they hold on to the substratum, that is they hold fast, and the stalk we call it as stipe, and they have a leaf like photosynthetic organ which we call it as frond. So in dictyota there is dichotomous branching, and you can also notice the air bladder in case of the fucus has this air bladders. So dictyota they exhibit the dichotomous branching. So example for this Phaeophyceae are Ectocarpus, Dictyota, Laminaria, Fucus, and Sargassum. They are the examples of Phaeophyceae. So you can also notice this Ectocarpus and Sargassum. You can notice the Sargassum also. So Sargassum is an edible algae. Phaeophyceae reproduction, three types are there. Vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation. Asexual reproduction, they involve the production of pear-shaped biflagellate zoospores. So, and they are having two unequal flagella which are laterally attached. In case of the chlorophyceae, they were attached on the apical part, but here two unequal flagella which are laterally attached in case of Phaeophyceae. The sexual reproduction is by isogamous, anisogamous, or oogamous type of sexual reproduction. The union of gametes occur in water or within the oogonium. So the gametes are pear-shaped, piriform, bearing two laterally attached flagella. So whether it is the asexual spores or the sexual gametes, so they are having laterally two biflagellate. They are laterally unequal flagella is there. Two laterally attached flagella you can notice. Okay. Next is rhodophyceae or red algae. The examples for them are Porphyra, Polysiphonia. So you can also remember about the Gracilaria and Gelidium. They're all the examples for the red algae or rhodophyceae. See, they have red thalli. So red algae have red thalli due to the presence of the pigment, red pigment, phycoerythrin. So majority of the red algae are uh, they are found in the warmer areas. So the red algae occur in both well lighted regions, which are at the surface of water, and at great depths in ocean where light cannot penetrate. In those regions also you find this red algae. So I already told you some of the examples for rhodophyceae are Porphyra, Polysiphonia, Gracilaria, Gelidium. They are all examples for this rhodophyceae. So rhodophyceae, most of them are multicellular. So they have complex body organization. The food is stored in rhodophyceae as Floridian starch. So the food is stored in rhodophyceae as Floridian starch, which is structurally similar to amylopectin and glycogen. So the example for this red algae are Polysiphonia, Porphyra, Gracilaria, and Gelidium. So these are the examples for red algae. So reproduction, vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation. Asexual reproduction is by non-motile spores. See here it is unique in rhodophyceae, they have non-motile spores. Sexual reproduction is by oogamous type. And again, even though it is oogamous, non-motile gametes, even the males are non-motile here. It has a complex post-fertilization development. So it is not directly going to form the rhodophyceae, adult rhodophyceae. It has a complex post-fertilization development in case of rhodophyceae. So the comparison of algae, here it gives complete detail of it. Chlorophyceae is commonly called as green algae. Phaeophyceae is called as brown algae. Rhodophyceae is called as red algae. So the major pigments present in Chlorophyceae A and B, Chlorophyceae A, C, carotenoids, fucoxanthin, chlorophyll A and D, phycoerythrin, which is responsible for the red color of it, R phycoerythrin. So the starch is a reserve food material in Chlorophyceae. In Phaeophyceae, it is mannitol or laminarin, and in Rhodophyceae, the reserve food material is floridian starch. So the cell wall in Chlorophyceae is made up of cellulose. The cell wall in Phaeophyceae is made up of cellulose and algin, and in red algae or Rhodophyceae, they are made up of cellulose. This major feature is one of the reasons for these three class of algae to be placed under plant kingdom, apart from them being eukaryotic organisms and multicellular. Okay, so the flagellar number and position of insertion. Chlorophyceae, the flagella might be from 2 to 8. All of them are equal and apical in position. Phaeophyceae, the two flagella are unequal and they are lateral. In case of Rhodophyceae, they don't have flagella at all, whether it is asexual zoospores or the sexual gametes, they don't have flagella at all. So habitat, Chlorophyceae is freshwater form. A few of them are saltwater and brackish water. Phaeophyceae, majority of them are saltwater and brackish water. Freshwater are very rare. Rhodophyceae, a few freshwater forms, saltwater and brackish water is noticed. Then we discussed about the bryophytes, the amphibians of the plant kingdom. So in bryophytes, they are called as the amphibians of the plant kingdom. They do not have vasculature. They are avascular plants. So I told you that, and they absorb moisture from the atmosphere. So they, why are they called the amphibians of the plant kingdom? Because they can live in soil but need water for sexual reproduction. So the bryophytes are seen occurring in the damp, humid, and shaded localities. So body can be differentiated, the plant body can be differentiated than that of algae. It is thallus-like. See, there are liverworts which is dorsoventrally flattened and thallus-like and prostrate. They are growing horizontally to the ground. So whereas the mosses, they are erect and attached to the substratum by unicellular or multicellular rhizoids. So they are attached to the substratum by unicellular or multicellular rhizoids. See, the bryophytes, they lack true type of roots, stems, or leaves. They may possess root-like, leaf-like, or stem-like structures. The main plant body is haploid. It produces gametes. Hence is called a gametophyte. So the main plant body is haploid. It produces gametes. Hence it is called as gametophyte. The sex organs in bryophytes are multicellular. The male sex organ is antheridium. The female sex organ is archegonium. The male sex organ antheridium, they produce biflagellate anthrozoids. The female sex organ is flash shaped and they produce a single egg cell. So the anthrozoids are carried by water, so are released to water and they meet the egg cell in the archegonium. An anthrozoid fuses with the egg to form zygote. So the anthrozoid fuses with the egg to form the zygote. So you can see the male thallus and female thallus here. So the archegonia will be here. Antheridiopore, they have the antheridium. So the gametophyte is the porophyte is dependent upon the gametophyte. That also you should understand about. So zygotes do not undergo meiosis immediately. They produce a multicellular diploid body called as sporophyte. So sporophyte can be differentiated into foot, setae, and capsule. So sporophyte is not free living. They are dependent on the gametophyte and they derive nourishment from the gametophyte. Some cells of the sporophyte Some cells of the sporophyte, 1 minute. So the zygote, they immediately undergo meiosis and they are going to form a multicellular body, which is called as sporophyte. Sporophyte is not free living, but they are attached to the photosynthetic gametophyte. So you know that sporophyte is dependent upon the gametophyte and they derive nourishment from it. Some of the cells of the sporophyte undergo meiosis to produce haploid spores. These spores are going to germinate to form gametophyte. The importance of bryophytes, some of these mosses provide food for herbaceous mammals, birds, etc. The species of sphagnum, a moss is provide peat. It is used as fuel. It is used as fuel. It has water holding capacity. And this sphagnum is used as a packing material for transshipment of living organisms. See, the bryophytes are ecologically important from their plant succession role. So they are pioneers along with lichens. You find the mosses growing on rocks. So they make the substrate suitable for the growth of higher plant. Since mosses form dense mats on the soil, they can prevent soil erosion. So the types of bryophytes we discussed about the liverworts and mosses. So the liverworts, they are dorsoventrally flattened. Mosses, they have a plant-like body with leaf-like, stem-like, and root-like structures. The liverworts, they usually grow on moist, shady habitats such as bank of streams, marshy ground, dampy, damp soil, bark of trees, and deep in the woods. The plant body is thalloid, example Markensia. Thallus is dorsiventral and closely uh, found attached to the substrate, oppressed to the substrate means they are attached to the substrate. The leafy members of this liverworts, they have tiny leaf-like appendages in two rows on the same stem-like structures. Reproduction in case of liverworts, or we also call it as hepaticopsida. So they are by fragmentation of thalli or by the formation of gemma cup. So gemmae, we call it as the gemma cup has the gemmae in them. So gemmae are green, multicellular asexual buds. If they detach from the mother plant, they develop into a new bryophyte. So they are found within small receptacles or gemma cups on the thalli. So gemmae are green multicellular asexual buds. If they fall to the soil, they develop into new uh, liverwort. So the gemmae are detached from the parent body and they germinate to form new individuals. Okay. Sexual reproduction in liverworts is by male and female sex organs are produced on the same or different thalli. Okay, so that is monoecious or dioecious condition. Sporophyte is differentiated into foot, setae, and capsule. After meiosis, spores are produced within the capsule. These spores germinate to form free living gametophytes. Mosses, the predominant stage of the life cycle of a moss is the gametophyte. It consists of two stages. So the first stage is protonema stage, second stage is leafy stage. So mosses, the predominant stage of the life cycle of a moss is the gametophyte. It consists of two stages. The first stage is protonema stage, second stage is leafy stage. So protonema stage, you can notice here, it develops directly from a spore. It is a creeping green branched and subsequently filamentous stage. So this is the protonema stage. The leafy stage, it develops from the secondary protonema as a result of lateral bud. They consist of upright slender axis which bears the spirally arranged leaves. So they are attached to the soil through multicellular and branched rhizoids. So this stage bears the sex organs. So vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation and budding in the case of secondary protonema. So sexual reproduction in mosses, even it is here by Antheridia and Archegonia. They are produced at the apex of leafy shoots. So after fertilization, the zygote develops to a sporophyte having a foot setae and capsule. So they develop into a zygote develops to a sporophyte having a foot setae and capsule. The sporophyte in mosses, it is more elaborate than in case of liverworts. So the capsule contains spores. The spores are formed by meiosis. So mosses have an elaborate mechanism of spore dispersal. Examples for mosses are Funaria, Sphagnum, Polytrichum. So these are the examples for mosses. So then we had studied about pteridophytes. Pteridophytes are the first terrestrial plants. Okay, they include horsetail and ferns. So they are found in cool, damp, shady places. Some of them are going to flourish well in sandy soil conditions. Evolutionary, they are the first terrestrial plants to possess xylem and phloem. So this we have discussed earlier also. So in bryophytes, the dominant phase is the gametophyte, whereas in pteridophytes, the dominant phase is sporophyte. Okay, it is the main plant body. It is differentiated into the sporophyte is differentiated into true or genuine stem, leaf, and root. They have these organs have well differentiated vascular tissues. The leaves in pteridophytes are small. In case of Selaginella, they are very small. We call it as microphyls, or large macrophyls, as in case of ferns. So the leaves might be small, as in case of Selaginella, or it can be large macrophyls, as in case of ferns. Then we had also discussed the medicinal economic importance of pteridophytes. So many medicinal plants are there in ferns like the rattlesnake fern, ostrich fern, bracken fern. They are used for medicinal purposes. Some of the ferns that have ornamental, we grow them as ornamental plants are asparagus fern. They look almost like asparagus plant. So we call it as asparagus fern. Dryopteris. Actinopteris, they have this leaf is fan-shaped structure, so we call it as, so it is grown as an ornamental plant for their fan-shaped leaf structure. So Actinopteris is also an ornamental plant. So pteridophytes reproduction, you already know, the sporophytes are born on this leaf, which we call it as sporophyll. If you see the undersurface of the leaf, they have the sori. Sori has a collection of sporangium. Each sporangium produces large number of spores. So the leaf which are bearing the sori, we call them as the sporangium, we call it as the sporophylls. In some cases, the sporophylls, they are going to form distinct compact structures called strobili in Selaginella or and equisetum, hostile fern. You notice that these sporophylls, they are forming a distinct compact structure called as strobili or cones. Example is Selaginella and equisetum. Then fern protalus, you can notice. So the sporangia produce spores by meiosis. So they are going to be haploid spores. So this haploid spores, when they fall to the soil, they develop into a inconspicuous, that is very small, multicellular, free living, mostly photosynthetic thalloid gametophyte. So gametophyte is reduced stage. It is not a dominant phase, but you can notice that they are independent. They can undergo photosynthesis, so they are called as the thalloid gametophytes. They are called as prothallus. Okay. This prothallus has archegonia and antheridium. So prothallus requires cool, damp, shady places to grow. It needs water for fertilization, just like the bryophytes. The pteridophytes also require water for fertilization. This is also one of the reason for the ferns or pteridophytes not being widely distributed, because availability of water for the fertilization process is a necessity. And their distribution is narrow in geographical regions. The gametophytes or prothallus, they bear male and female sex organs called antheridia and archegonia respectively. You can see here antheridia and archegonia are present on this prothallus, the gametophytic plant body. So water is needed for transfer of anthrozoids. Once they are transferred to the mouth of archegonium, they fuse, and within the archegonium, the zygote is formed. Zygote develops to form a multicellular, well-differentiated sporophyte. So they are going to form the sporophytic plant body. So you can notice here the Salvinia, which is an aquatic fern, and Selaginella. So reproduction, most of the pteridophytes produce similar kind of spores. So we call it as homosporous plants. Other type of the pteridophytes, they produce two kinds of spores. Okay, heterosporous, you can notice it in Selaginella and Salvinia. They produce macrospores and microspores. So the microspores are the future pollen grains. They evolve to form the future pollen grains. Megaspores are macrospores. They evolve to form the future ovule. Okay, so they are heterosporous. So you notice this in Selaginella and Salvinia. Heterospory leads to seed habit, the formation of seeds. See, the megaspores and microspores, they germinate and they give rise to female and male gametophyte respectively. So this might be asked even in CET or NEET. So megaspores, they are going to produce the female gametophyte, microspores produce the male gametophyte respectively. The female gametophytes are retained within the parent sporophyte for variable periods. Within female gametophyte, the zygote develop into young embryos. So this event, that is the development of young embryo within the female gametophyte, this is similar to seed habit. It is a precursor for seed habit. This itself later formed the seed in gymnosperms and angiosperms. So they have retained the zygote within the female gametophyte, and they develop to form this. The zygote develops to form the uh, embryo, and this itself is a precursor event for seed habit, and it is considered as an important step in evolution. That is, zygote developing into embryo within the female gametophyte. It is similar to the embryo developing within the seed. Okay, so within the ovule. So this led to seed habit in the process of evolution. So these are all the stages that we have discussed in the previous class. So the classes of pteridophytes, Xylopsida, they are don't have leaf-like structure. They have spore structures called as synangium. Lycopsida, the example is Selaginella and Lycopodium. Okay, Spinopsida, the example is the horsetail fern, Equisetum. Pteropsida, you have Dryopterus, Adiantum. Adiantum is the maidenhair fern, Teres. So these are all the different examples. So the four classes of pteridophytes are Xylopsida, Lycopsida, Spinopsida, and Pteropsida. So the final part for your syllabus part of it is gymnosperms. So the naked seeded plants. So they are not covered by fruits. Why are they naked seeded? Because they don't have the fruit enclosing the seeds. They don't have ovary. That is the reason they are naked seeded plants. So gymnosperms are naked seeded plants in which the ovules are not enclosed by the ovary wall, and they remain exposed before as well as after fertilization. So seeds are developed after post fertilization. They are not covered by fruit. They are naked. So here you can see the cycas plant, the cycas ovules before fertilization and after fertilization. So here you can see the differences. So the gymnosperm ovule as only the ovule, they don't have the fruit wall or ovary wall is absent. Okay, unlike angiosperm ovule, because of which these seeds that developed after fertilization are not covered by fruit. Then they include medium-sized trees or tall trees. Example is the Sequoia dendron gigantea. The redwood tree is the tallest tree uh, on Earth. Okay, at present, so nearly 130-meter tall trees you can notice. So the pinus roots with mycorrhiza, you can notice the roots are generally taproot. So the roots are found having fungal association in the form of mycorrhiza in pinus. So in cycas, the coralloid roots are having association with nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria. I'd even given the name of that blue-green algae bacteria, that is Anabaena cycadae. So they have specialized roots called as coralloid roots in which this nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria is noticed. That is Anabaena cycadae. The stems are unbranched in most of the plants like cycas, or they might be branched in pinus or cedrus. The leaves are simple or compound. They are well adapted to withstand extreme temperature, humidity, and wind. In cycas, the pinnate leaves persist for few years. In conifers, they have needle-like leaves, okay, which reduce the surface area for transpiration, and they have thick cuticle and sunken stomata, which also reduces the transpiration. So the male cone of cycas, female cone of cycas. So each leaf we call it as microsporophyll. Here we call it as megasporophyll. So gymnosperms are heterosporous. They produce haploid microspores and megaspores. So microspores are the pollen grains which are smaller in size, and megaspores are the ovule which are larger in size. So some leaves are modified into sporophylls. They are compactly and spirally arranged along a central axis to form the cone or strobili or lax we call it as. So the sporophylls bear sporangia in which spores are produced. Sporophylls are of two types, the microsporophylls and megasporophylls. Microsporophylls, they arrange themselves to form the male cone. They have this microsporangia and microspore mother cell. They produce the microspores, the future pollen grain. So this is pollen grain is the male gametophyte. The pollen grains are developed within the microsporangia. And megasporophylls, they are arranged to form female strobili or macrosporangiate. They bear megasporangia. Ovule is called as megasporangia. It consists of a body called as nucellus. One of the cells in the nucellus, they become the megaspore mother cell. The megaspore mother cell, they undergo division to form four megaspores. One of the megaspores enclosed within the megasporangium develop into the multicellular female gametophyte. This female gametophyte has two or more archegonia. Can you notice here where I'm pointing the cursor? That is the female gametophyte with two or more archegonia. So the female gametophyte is also retained within megasporangium. So the male or female cones may be born on the same trees as in case of pinus. We call it as monoecious. In cycas, male trees separate, female trees separate. We call it as dioecious. So unlike bryophytes and pteridophytes in gymnosperms, the male and female gametophytes, they do not have an independent free living existence. They are completely dependent on the sporophyte, and they remain within the sporangia, and they are retained on the sporophytes. So reproduction, the pollen grain, which is winged pollen grain, they are carried by the wind, and they meet the opening of the ovules called as micropyle. So they germinate to produce pollen tube. The pollen tube carries the male gamete, which fuses with the egg cell in the archegonia. Okay. After fertilization, the zygote develops to embryo, and the ovule forms the seed. Since they don't have ovary, they don't have the fruit formation. See, angiosperms is presently not included in your syllabus, but for your general knowledge point of view, I have explained it in the class. So I'm not going to repeat in the synopsis. So angiosperms is not available for your present syllabus. That is 30% of the syllabus is reduced. So you don't have it. It is only for the general information I had discussed. So with this, we complete the complete synopsis of this plant kingdom, what we had discussed in many classes. Okay.